Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. When young Israelis are finishing up high school, what are they thinking about? Which college to attend? Not exactly. They're thinking about which military unit to join. Perhaps Israel's superb commando unit called Sayeret, or maybe the intelligence unit known as 8200. Or take Israel's prestigious unit of paratroopers, recruited from a pool of 4,000, ultimately narrowed down to only 400. Reminds us of the biblical story of Gideon, who sent home all but 300 soldiers. And of course, he won the day. It all starts with a grueling 20-month training period. There's a remarkable closeness that develops during that time. One's buddies are like family, even closer than family. It's no exaggeration to say that the IDF becomes the soldier's second family. That kind of camaraderie is essential for success on the battlefield. It's said that everybody knows everybody. But it's not just about combat. The skills learned in the Israeli military are actually essential to the business world. And that's why in Israel, prospective employers take note of which IDF unit a young person served in. It's even said that one's academic past is less important than one's military past. That's why in Israel, there are newspaper ads for 8,200 alumni. Perhaps Israel's most rigorous military unit is called Talpiot, meaning castle turrets, from the biblical book Song of Songs. The trainees in the Talpiot program undergo unique training, at the end of which they are integrated into IDF technological units, research and development. Those who serve in Talpiot generally reach the pinnacle of achievement, especially in technology. But that kind of achievement also means serving an extra 6 years in the military. Talpiot was the brainchild of Hebrew University scientists Felix Dotan and Shaul Yatziv. Ironically, it came about as a response to the Yom Kippur War, which in so many ways brought a sense of depressed melancholy to the country. The idea was, find the most talented youth, give them the best technology training possible, then put them through an accelerated degree program in math or physics. During that time, introduce them to the exact technological needs of the IDF. All kinds of connections are explored between science and technology and real-life military situations. It's not hard to imagine that in civilian life, these talpions would be some of the most sought-after potential employees. There's an important business key here. Mission-oriented leaders make the best problem solvers. And that's true in the military and civilian life as well. In the case of the IDF, the principle is fleshed out in finding cross-disciplinary solutions to a multitude of military challenges. For example, there's the matter of penetrating the telecommunications networks of terrorists. How do you suppose skills acquired addressing those challenges might be applicable to the telecommunications industry at large? Another example had to do with finding a way to relieve back pain experienced by helicopter pilots. Just imagine the practical application of that kind of research. It just so happens that Talpiot operatives come under the IDF research and development arm called MAFAT. It's the equivalent of the US agency known as DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. One important achievement of MAFAT has been the development of new unmanned robotic systems. It's one more example of defense technology with serious spin-off potential for modern industry.
מתקשר על הרפואתה, אני פה, אני שם, אני חוזר מציון, הולך לציון.
But wouldn't you know, as with anything else in Israel, talpiot has its critics. Healthy criticism, of course, goes along with Israeli culture. Some charge that the whole program fosters a kind of hyper-elitism. Is it really worthwhile to invest so much, so many resources in such a small group? After all, only 650 go through the program in 30 years. And the graduates generally don't even stay in the military. But what they have done is something even more important for the Israeli economy. They have founded company after company. For example, there's the call monitoring company called NICE Systems. There's also a company involved with human genome decoding called Compugen. The DNA of Israeli innovation is, you guessed it, unique in all the world. So says Gary Scheinberg, Vice President for Technology and Innovation at British Telecom. Israel has figured out that becoming a combination of a technology center and national service yields an unbeatable advantage. And after a lengthy stint of military service, young Israelis are all the more ready for college. In fact, a huge percentage of Israelis go to university right out of the army. As for the Israeli population in general, some 45% are university educated. Pretty impressive. By their mid-20s, many are married, have graduate degrees, and are definitely mature. It's been said that their heads are in a different place when compared, for example, with young Americans. What do young Israelis have that perhaps others don't? Answer: maturity combined with impatience. For example, if you have a business idea, don't wait. Start the same week. Then consider Israel's cultural mix, a kind of diversity fostered by the IDF. Soldiers come from everywhere, from every background. Jews from all over the world. Add to that the unique connections and camaraderie gained from military service. And there's also basically a reunion every year with the people you serve with. Because about a month out of every year, you're doing reserve duty, called miluim in Hebrew, with your old army buddies. It's said that the whole country of Israel is at only 1 degree of separation. That's why some Israeli companies don't even use help wanted ads. They just know who they need. The IDF is unique in another way. It has the ability to scrutinize the records of every high school student. The highest achievers are invited to compete for elite spots in army units. In Israel, the military gets to select the best. In the US, it's the other way around. The recruits are actually volunteers, and they do the selecting. West Point, for example, can't gain access to the academic records of potential recruits. In Israel, things are different. The military can be as selective as it wants to be, and responsibility is taught at every level. And by the way, saying, "It's not my fault," is never an excuse. There's a social range in the military, and it's purely merit-based. Not a bad idea. America, by contrast, let's face it, wastes much of its military talent. It's said that Silicon Valley is illiterate as far as military resumes are concerned. What about all the military talent coming from Iraq and Afghanistan, among other battlefields? In America, the business world doesn't really know what to do with them. And so we have a great divide between the military and civilian communities. Only 1 in 221 is on active duty in the US. Compare that with 1 in 10 during World War II. With the end of the draft in 1975, military and civilian cultures just parted ways. And think about those veterans coming out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Places where we have had huge forward operating bases, or FOBs. Our famed general, Petraeus, developed a winning strategy in those far-off battlefields. His idea: live among local Iraqis, in local Iraqi neighborhoods. Create small units, independent from the larger division. In the end, it became, as somebody called it, a 3-block war. Junior commanders were like a small-town mayor. As in Israel, they were free to challenge senior officers. And that's a real business asset. Veterans have a unique ability to bring to the table proportionality, understanding what's really important, as well as a solid ethical base. Consider the difference between US and Israeli attitudes. An American employer is accustomed to saying, "Your military experience is nice, but have you ever had a real job?" In Israel, military service is the standard metric for employers. And that's just one of the things that has made Israel the startup nation.